Hola amores, and welcome back to the channel. And to those who don't know me, I am Maritza, currently a graduate master's student in psychology. And today we are talking about MGTOW, which is that revolution that has men going their own way. And all this is explained by psychology. Let's get into it right now. I will start with a saying in Spanish that goes like this. La soledad nos enseña que no todos son buena compañía. And it means solitude teaches us that not everyone is good company. Okay? So my loves, for decades, long periods of times, the standard life path for a man was super simple. Was for him to get an education, to find a career, to get married, and therefore to provide for a family. That was the same exact script for everyone out there, and that's the same one everyone followed. But in the last few years, a quiet revolution has reached a huge, big boiling point. Thousands, even millions of men are shredding all that script and are going for what they call MGTOW, which is men going their own way. And this is not a hashtag, it's a full-scale social phenomenon. Some see it as a desperate reaction to heartbroken dating culture, while others see it as the ultimate pursuit of personal freedom. Psychology explains that the most vocal reason given by men in this movement is risk management. Many MGTOW adherents point to what? To divorce statistics, to family court outcomes, and they argue that in the current legal climate we're currently in, marriage has become a contract where one party has a massive financial incentive to leave over the other. Now, let's mention the divorce rape. You'll often hear this term in the articles, and it refers to the loss of assets, to maybe the loss of retirement funds, and most importantly, to the access to the children in case there's children in the families when they get married. By these men staying single, they claim that they save an average of $20,000 to $30,000 a year. That would otherwise go into dating, right? Weddings or even households overheads, expenses from the house. And nowadays, where the cost of living is at an all-time high, many men have decided that the return on investment, ROI, of a traditional relationship is simply not there anymore. Psychology next explains to us that these men have the philosophy of what? Of choosing peace over chaos. Because beyond the money, this is part of what? Of a psychological shift. And this is not just about men hating ladies, hating women in general. Though the movement is often criticized for its red pill rhetoric, for many men, it's about removing exactly what they perceive as an emotional volatility, all right, from their life. It is said that this movement is one that gives men the freedom to do many things. Like, for example, move cities for a job, maybe spend 10 hours on a given hobby that they like, or to keep a perfectly quiet home without any sort of negotiation. Also, a common sentiment in the movement is that men are tired of being emotional shock observers. And what? And they feel that the modern relationships demand that they be the providers, the protectors, and sometimes even the therapist, while receiving very little emotional safety in return. So these men, they choose what? They choose the loneliness of being alone over the loneliness of being in an unappreciated partnership. All right, my loves, the next thing we have to address is the elephant in the room, because we cannot talk about MGTOW without talking about its origins in the manosphere. MGTOW is rooted in the red pill philosophy, the idea that society is genocentric, which is centered in the woman's needs, and that feminism has corrupted the natural balance between the genders, between the ladies and the men. Okay, so my friends, MGTOW does operate also on a spectrum. Level 1, which is simply staying single, however still interacting with society in general, all the way to level 4, which is what? Which is going completely ghost, cutting off all ties to the state and to society, to live completely in self-sufficiency. You understand? And I want to mention one thing that the critics and the sociologists have criticized and pointed out big time, which is that this revolution can often devolve into a culture of resentment. And they argue that instead of self-improving on some corners of the movement, what happens? Many do focus entirely on seething about ladies and blaming us ladies all for their male isolations. So my friends, what happens to a society when a significant percentage of men do decide to opt out completely? Well, I'll explain. For one, we're already seeing this. We're seeing something called the birth dearth, which is where more ladies and more men are choosing to stay single. Now, what happens? Now birth rates in developed nations are plummeting. Next, we have to agree that men traditionally have found their purpose throughout being providers. But now without that, we are seeing a high rise in the monk modes, as they call them. Men now focusing entirely on fitness, career, and stoicism. So the question is this a healthy evolution of self-reliance, or is this a symptom of deeply fractured society where two genders no longer know how to communicate? My friends, whether you see MGTOW as a necessary stand for male or maybe a retreat from the challenges of life, one thing is very, very clear, which is that the traditional social contract is now being renegotiated in real time as we speak right now. Men are no longer looking at marriage as a default milestone. And for many men, the going on my way is now the only way left that really makes sense to them. And with this, we have reached the end of today's video, but I invite all of you to connect with me through Instagram. Go and check out my other music relaxing channel here on YouTube, and go and see the channel's membership just in case you may find it useful. Once again, I am Maritza, and know that I will try my best to continue always keep bringing you ways on how to create a better bond with yourself and a more meaningful relationship with all those around you. Mwah. Till next time. Ciao, ciao, my loves. Ciao, ciao, my amores.